Hello, I'm Harry Christophers and I'm delighted to be joined by Sally Dunkley. Sally is one of the founder members of the 16, not only still singing in the group but actually also edits a lot of our 16th century music and does choral workshops for us and all sorts of things.
Before we start talking about the Choral Pilgrimage for 2012, I think we should mention this magnificent setting of the church that we're in today, which is St Sepulchre without Newgate. And Harry, this is a church which you're familiar with for the 16, and Sally as well, because you had photographs taken here and you sang here as well.
Yes, at the beginning, the early days in the 1980s, we rehearsed here pretty regularly, and in fact one of the first major publicity shots was shot just down here where all the chairs were cleared, and Sally's in that famous picture, and Christopher Royal, of course, and Chris is still in the group as well. And I remember it for many, many years ago when I was a chorister at Canterbury, because this is the musicians' church, and the St Cecilia service was done here, and the 4 top choristers from Canterbury and the 4 top choristers from York came to join the choirs of Westminster Abbey and St Paul's singing here.
Would it be fair to say that the pilgrimage is at the heart of what the 16 does, because around half the concerts you do in a season are now devoted to the choral pilgrimage?
Yes, well, in fact, over the last couple of years, I think that last year we hit 32 concerts on the pilgrimage with Victoria's music. It's a major part of our concert year, our season, and it's something we put a lot into. I mean, it's not just about the music. It's about everything we do. Added onto that is there are pre-concert talks or workshops. It's making sure we get to places in the UK which we've never been to before. So every year we tend to add sort of 1 or 2 new places. A couple of years ago we added Milton Keynes. This year we're going to Llandaff near Cardiff. And so, this is all. It's all very important. We're going down to the west of England. We've got Truro, Exeter, Taunton. We've not been to Taunton before. I think that's a new one for us. And so this is brilliant. And everywhere we go, people come up to us and say, "Thank you so much for coming here." They've heard us on the radio, heard us on Classic FM, Radio 3. They may have bought the odd disc or something, but to hear us live. And I've always maintained that to hear the 16 live is something special. You think you've heard it on the recording, but actually come and hear us live and you will hear something special, where of course the music we're doing is fitting the building like a glove.
Where do you begin when you're thinking about and planning the artistic programming for the Choral Pilgrimage?
Well, I tend to come up with a few ideas, and then we sort of feature. I mean, if it's associated with 16th century English music, then it's over to Sally. I say, "Sally, I've got an idea," and Sally will say, "I've always wanted to edit such and such a piece, haven't you?" And then it goes, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, one of the exceptionally good things about this whole series for me is that it was unimaginable even 10 years ago, let alone 20, that we would sing John Shepherd's Media Vita, which is a 20-minute most wonderful piece, to thousands of people in the UK in the course of 1 year. Really unthinkable, and it's just wonderful that we are able to share this great music with so many people in the audience.
I think what's really important, actually, because the whole nature of unaccompanied music is what we're doing is we're taking this music to these beautiful places. But I get the feeling that the sort of general public feel that they know when they come in here to 16 they're going to be introduced to something. They may not know any of the composers that are listed on that programme, but they know that if we think they're good, then they must be. And I think one thing I've sort of maintained through sort of 30 years of existence is that we always keep our integrity. We never dumb down what we're doing. So we present this music and we unearth some fantastic pieces, and we've got a pool of people. I mean, there's Sally, who of course is wonderful on the 16th century music. John Milsom's also helped us a great deal, particularly with this year's Choral Pilgrimage. And there are people out there who've got great ideas. We have a wonderful publisher up in who lives in the depths of Scotland called Martin Imbrie, who edits all the music that we do, the Latin and Spanish music that we do, and he's just brilliant.
So you're performing in cathedrals and churches up and down the country. Do some of those venues present challenges, particularly for singers, Sally?
Yes, absolutely. Every building is different. The acoustic is different. Where you can find to stand, the right place to stand, is something that we have to think carefully about, of course. And there is a wide variety of acoustic places, from those with a very long nave, York or Winchester for instance, and round venues like Milton Keynes and like the Round Church in Shrewsbury and others, and the odd concert hall also. We do sing this music in concert halls, so everyone is different. For us, I think that one of the great things is the opportunity to sing the same programme a lot of times. It's never the same twice. We have to focus on it on the day in a new way each time we start off that day. And the music and our part in it evolves as the year goes on. And I really value that. That's very exciting to see how it evolves during the year.
So let's talk Choral Pilgrimage 2012 in detail. The Earth Resounds is the working title of this year, which will see the 16 exploring sacred music from Flanders from the 15th and 16th century. We're going to be looking at 3 composers' works, and shall we begin with Josquin, a man whose reputation was quite something during his lifetime. He became really known as a great composer.
Oh, very much so. And he was, I'm always amazed by these composers in the 16th century and just how much they travelled. And you think of Josquin, Flemish born, but then ended up in Sistine Chapel. His inscription is there in the Sistine Chapel, isn't it? I gather. And they did travel so much, but he is a staggering composer, isn't he, Sally?
Yes, to me, singing Josquin is one of the most valuable experiences I've had as a musician, I would say, because singing his music, making sense of it, involves one's brain more than almost anything else, because to make sense of the phrases, to see why they are as they are, the construction, you can sense that there is a huge intellect at work there, and that makes it particularly rewarding to sing, I think.
Yes, it's very male voice dominated, isn't it? A lot of the music we're doing, we find there's a lot of men's parts, tenors and basses, and that's why actually on this choral pilgrimage, the audience will feel that we're even more mathematically challenged, because they'll see 20 singers rather than 18 or the 16, so we're 20 because we need those 2 extra basses to master most of the pieces in this program.
Yes, there's a lot of low tessitura writing in all these 3 composers, especially Josquin and Brumel, which you can imagine it would be a choir of men, probably a lot of priests among them, singing the music at the time.
And after Josquin comes Brumel. Let's talk more about this extraordinary composer as well. And it's his Earthquake Mass which forms the basis for the music for the pilgrimage this year.
Yes, it's been sort of nicknamed the Earthquake Mass, Ecce Terremotus, which is it's an incredible, absolutely incredible mass, 12 parts, which Sally has, of course, edited for us, and it is incredibly demanding on all the singers, and it's just, I mean, when we first rehearsed it, one couldn't believe how much imitation was going on, how many little things were going on in this music that we needed to try and make transparent. Ultimately, you can't make it all transparent, so you find the listener will sort of latch on to various sounds and thematic material that are happening, and they'll see that coming out through the rest of the piece. And there's one wonderful thing about this mass, am I right in saying, Sally, that Lassus sang?
Yes, the Brumel Mass is really unusual because music in 12 parts was not at all common at the time that Brumel was writing. That's the first thing, so there are great waves of sound. It's also unique in that there is one manuscript source which you can now see online, and that choir book comes from the chapel at Munich where Lassus was choirmaster much, much later, several decades later. And at the beginning, on the left-hand side of the voice parts, there are the names of some of the singers who sang this piece for Lassus later in the 16th century. And that, as far as I'm aware, is a unique association to have in a manuscript. It makes it, it puts together Lassus and Brumel. And you wonder how Lassus got on with this music. He must have really admired it to want to perform it that much later, at a time when people wanted to perform the latest music rather than old music like Brumel would have been by that time.
Yeah, we simply, really did enjoy recording it. It was fantastic to record. It's interesting. One of the things we've done with this Choral Pilgrimage is the leaflet shows, and the cover of the CD has a relief from the Bruegel painting, the Temple of Babel. And I was reading about this whole origin of that painting. It was all to do with the building boom in Antwerp and in Germany, in that part of Europe at the time. So I think it's all got a relation to, I think, this this music, the large scale work that Brunel had written. For me, it's all got this wonderful connection with art and everything that was going on. People wanted to write big and build big.
Well, finally, we do come to Lassus. Was this man heavily influenced by these other two composers?
My feeling about Lassus is that he was an all-rounder. He wrote so much secular music, setting different languages, and one of the things that we know about him is that there are his letters extant. He wrote a lot of letters to the young prince at Munich, which show him to have been a very literary person, a very humorous person too. So I think that Lassus's music is so much about words. You need to, well, if you see the music on the page as you listen to it or sing it, you get a glimpse of the mindset behind his composition, which is so much about words, different in that respect, I think, from almost anyone else.
Yes, and he wrote so much, didn't he? There's stacks and stacks of chansons and masses. And of course, he's really the sort of great master of the parody mass, which is this whole thing about where a composer based a mass on a motet or a chanson, so sacred or secular, by himself or by another composer, but using material from that to base his mass. And of course, in this program, we've got two examples of that. In fact, we have a Magnificat by Lassus, which is actually based on a motet by Josquin, Prete Rerum. So the Magnificat is based on Prete Rerum. You can see that that's very obvious how that works. And then two of the wonderful Lassus pieces we're doing in the program that are just phenomenal. Two big choirs of Order Lucius Rutilat, and Lassus motet to those words, which he then writes a Magnificat based on it, and they are quite fantastic. You've got elements of the great master of the Renaissance, but also this sort of hint of early Baroque in it when he goes into sort of one choir singing at a time for occasional verse, and the Magnificat. Quite florid writing for a composer of that time.